My name is Ramon Leon, and I came to the United States in 1987. I'm from Mexico City. Well, probably the younger years, the happiest years of my life, probably when I was going to school. Growing up in Mexico City, which is a large city. Probably because when I started becoming an adult, I started seeing how complicated was life. And the level of criminal activities going on, the noise, the pollution, I didn't like that. So I will say that growing up, when I was younger, when I was going to school, walking, enjoying, the afternoons playing soccer with my friends on the street, and enjoying life without knowing the complications of life. Probably because of my entrepreneurial spirit. I come from a business family. I grew up in a business environment, knowing the struggles of a business owner. Find access to capital, access to markets, managing staff, making sure they could sell their stuff. But I always wanted to have my own business, and I started entrepreneurial activity since young age. I was assumed to be taking over the family business operations, but I instead of that, I wanted to have my own business, not inheriting something that already existed. I wanted to form it from scratch. I started several businesses while I was in Mexico, still at a young age, probably 15, 16 years old. But there was a time when I decided that I will try the land of the opportunity, which is the United States. And I decided to come to the United States, and I started my own business. My family has been involved in furniture manufacture and upholstery. So building furniture from scratch, I learned the trade of being a frame maker, a serger, a cutter. I used to do everything. A truck driver, the debt collector, starting new markets, strategic planning, strategic growth, managing personnel, human resources, all that. When I came here to the United States, I obviously started my own furniture manufacturing company. I used to make new furniture during the weekdays to be sold at local swap meets in California. Then I moved to Minneapolis in 1991, and I started doing reupholstery work. Well, it is a lot different because I came from California. I used to live in California until 1991, January 1991. So I arrived to Minnesota in January 7, 1991. And obviously it was a shock to me. I had never seen so much ice everywhere. And in California, I used to live in a place where there are a lot of Latinos, people like me. When I came here to Minnesota, I was probably the only one. So it was a shock. But I found it interesting, and I found it attractive, and I found out that people were genuinely interested to learn about me. Because I lived by, we have many lakes, and I'm a very active person, so I would walk every day, and people would look at me and they will ask, "Where are you from?" Or they will try to greet me in Spanish, assuming that I was a Spanish-speaking person. So I love that, because that shows that people is interested in who are the new people coming into town. And I have to say, I appreciate that, because if we are not approached, sometimes we feel isolated. We don't feel welcomed. So that was what I found when I came here to Minnesota. And obviously in 1991, there were not a lot of Latinos living in the state compared to right now. Still, we are a very low number, but it is a lot larger than it was in 1991. Well, I realized that my community started growing dramatically. And since I used to live in the uptown area and I used to walk down Lake Street, I saw a lot of immigrants from East Africa, from Asia, and obviously from Latin America, mostly Mexicans like me. Back then, we didn't have an idea what we could do together. I realized that we were meeting as Latinos to talk about the social and economic issues that we faced as newcomers without realizing that other immigrants like the East Africans and the Asians were facing similar challenges, and if we work together, we could overcome those issues a lot more, better prepared. But in many instances, we faced the language challenge. Not all of us spoke English, and communication was difficult. But it is beautiful having all people from different nationalities in the same place with one common language, English. Still, we could go back to our own community and speak in our own language, in our mother tongue. And it is beautiful to be able to understand each other regardless of the language or race. Well, first of all, I have to mention that I entered the country without inspection, meaning that I didn't cross the border the conventional way. Why? Because for a national Mexican, it's almost impossible to come even with a visitor's visa, because they require you to prove economic solvency. And Mexico has been a cash-based country for many, many years. And even if you own properties, if you own a business, sometimes you don't have the files in order to apply and get a visitor's visa. So I applied many times, but I was rejected. So I decided to do it the way most of the people did it back then, which come in the country undocumented, or like many people will say, illegally. And which is a term that I would prefer not to use, and I will ask everyone not to use it. Second, that imposes you many other challenges that a refugee, formally accepted refugee into the United States doesn't face. The fact that I didn't have a Social Security number prevented me from Social Security benefits, even though I had to pay Social Security taxes. The fact that I didn't have a Social Security number prevented me from receiving tax credits, even though I was paying local, state, and federal taxes, and many other challenges. But that, instead of deterring me from my ambitions, from achieving my goals, and pursuing my dream in a more intentional way, no, it didn't stop me. I was more aggressive, and I realized that, the enormous amount of wealth and knowledge that was being wasted by not helping these people incorporate into the society in a positive way, by taking advantage of their skills and helping them to develop them, put them to good use. Later on, I wrote a report where I found out that immigrants from all over the world come to the United States every year with $20 billion worth of education that they required in the home country. It didn't cost a single penny to the U.S. government. Still, all those skills are being wasted. Why? Because we face the challenges, the language challenge, the fact that we don't know how the system works, and the fact that our licenses are not properly accredited or aren't recognized here. So where do we end up? well, doing enrolling into a low-paying job or doing something else that we not necessarily are happy with. Uh, those, instead of stopping me from seeking my dream, pushed me forward to seek it in a more aggressive way and convince other people to do it. Use your skills, use your talents, prove to people that we are not a burden, prove people that we are a contribution to this country too, the same way they did it in the 1600s, the same way it is being done right now. It is just a matter of being prepared to have a conversation, because immigration always causes social tension, and not too many people is prepared to have that conversation unless they see you as a contributor to society. Oh, I'm very proud. Um, See, I always was very happy to see that people would listen to me. They might not necessarily agree with me, but they will be listening. They will be willing to listen to me. And that to me means a lot. Then I have the fortune of being able to travel very often to my home country. And yes, at the beginning, I'm happy to be there to greet my people that I know. But I want to come back home, even though the weather might be 70 below. Well, the windshield. Uh, you can see the differences uh, in the climate, for example, where I was born and here. But it is worth it. You know why? Because our roots now go deep. You know, my children were born here in Minnesota, and they are very proud to be Minnesotan too. They are bilingual, and they are proud to be bilingual. They can communicate in two languages. I love nature, and Minnesota is rich in that. But perhaps, as I mentioned before, probably the most important fact is the richness of the people that live here in the state of Minnesota, and the openness to listen to other people that not necessarily look like them. Trying to understand what brought us here and what our contributions could be if we were given the tools in order to incorporate, rather than putting blocks in front of us so we can't come in. You cannot change the force of nature. And in this particular, in many cases, this is the economic force that drives us out of the places where we were born. It requires courage to come forward and say, I'm Ramon, I came from Mexico, and I can do this, this, and this, and this if you allow me or give me a chance to prove it. I will become a good neighbor, a good citizen, and an excellent friend. And it requires also courage from other people on the other side to say, welcome, I'm John, and let's work together. Let's learn about each other. Let's be good friends. Let's be good neighbors. That is difficult to do. But luckily, we have people that are trying to do the right thing and understand those. And not to classify all the immigrants in the same box, because we come from many, many different countries, and all of us face different struggles and different challenges that forced us to leave our home countries. That is difficult also, but not when we are working together. If a piece is not working in alignment with the group, then positive results cannot be achieved fully. I got married here in Minneapolis. And the happiest moments of my life were when my two children were born. And I remember my daughter was born in 1994, Hennepin County Medical Center. And I was looking at the Metrodome when I went to see her the first time. And my son also was born on Hennepin County Medical Center. And I have the same picture, looking through the window, picture of the Metrodome, which no longer exists. But we have a picture. So when I look back, and I remember I used to live in a very small apartment. It was actually in a studio. It didn't have anything. It didn't have furniture. It didn't have anything. But very soon I bought my first home. And again, I tried to incorporate into my community. I went to the block meetings and I introduced myself. And I went with my daughter in my arms. And they saw me that I was harmless. I brought my daughter who was like 6 months old. And they realized that I was a family person. I also happened to have a business. So what could be wrong with that? So those memories, when I think about them, I remember when my friends on the street, a few months later, they will see me mowing the lawn, or shoveling the snow, or building up my fence. They would greet me from afar. Hey, Ramon! Then I realized I'm already part of the community. All of that social tension that immigrants cause, at least at that particular moment, disappeared. But once I got out of my neighborhood, my struggle would start again. But I don't mind it. So, for some people, those are challenges. For me, are agitators. They are encouragement to continue my work.